So what do you call yourself? Welcome to the LaTangela Show. Hey.
Hey, what can I do for you this fine day?
This is your destiny. Hot, hot, hot.
Right now.
Welcome to the LaTangela Show.
Kick it.
Come on in and enjoy yourself.
Right now.
We gon' party like no one else. Welcome to the LaTangela Show.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the LaTangela Show podcast. You know, it does my heart well to have this time together. And in the hot seat on the tan line, we're going to open a line of communication, gain some greater level of understanding, and ask a lot of questions that need a lot of answers. Dr. Patterson, on behalf of Women's Hospital, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. And how are you?
I am excellent, even better now that I finally have you in the hot seat and on the tan line. When I tell you life has been lifing, and I've been juggling the schedule, trying my best to make it all make sense. So thank you for being so accommodating and taking the time to do this, because this is indeed important.
Well, it is my pleasure.
Have it been keeping you busy enough?
Sure have.
Well,
I love it. It keeps me really busy to run between the office with patients and back to surgery. So that's my everyday.
how did you know that this was the walk of life that was going to fulfill your purpose?
Oh, good question. I didn't always know. I'll start there. I knew that I wanted to do medicine. I knew I wanted to work with ladies and take care of them. I knew I wanted to get into oncology. And early on, I was looking at either GYN oncology or breast oncology. And so my background is a little bit unique. I started as an OBGYN initially to do a deep dive into women's health and to help take care of them. And then I went back for a fellowship and trained to do breast surgical oncology. So that's how I ended up there.
Wow, that's a blessing. Especially to say that you've always had the passion and the desire, and you knew that there was an angle that you wanted to walk through to see exactly what would be the best fit. And being that you've led such a team and you've landed with such an amazing team, Women's Hospital, there are no strangers to our community, whether it's a health fair or making sure that they're taking care of us. They are a trusted source. So being a part of such a trusted front, what has been one of the highlights for you?
Oh, I have to say the people. I mean, I definitely looked around before I landed here, as you say. And Women's has just made such a great impact in the community. I knew that they had the resources and everything that I wanted to be able to offer for my patients, and so that was really important. But it really was the people that were here. It's the community, it's the docs, it's the staff, it's just everybody loves working here, everybody loves taking care of patients, and everyone has the same goal, the same mission of like taking the best care of our patients no matter what. And that really speaks to me.
Yeah. And I love to hear that, because one of the things that we don't talk about often enough is the fact that doctors, they have a decision to make. You want to make sure that you're supported. You want to make sure that you have a team that aligns with your vision and that you're able to help not only yourselves thrive, but to be in a good space where you can fully care for the patient and help walk us through the plans. Because by the time we end up on your doorstep, we are in a ball of emotions. There's a lot of uncertainties, and we don't need everybody frazzled. So I'm gonna need you to be comfortable where you are. Okay.
Absolutely. And I mean, it would be naive to think that we can take care of patients by ourselves, right? Anyone who's been sick knows how important it is to have your nurses, to have your staff, to have the person who's answering the phone be helpful and compassionate and want to help coordinate everything as a team. It really comes down to just every single person.
Yeah. And it's a team effort. And when it comes down to that village, we have a lot of questions that need answers, especially in curating the conversation to make sure that this is the new norm. You don't want to just wait for October when it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month to have the conversation and then to leave the conversation. This should be something that's ongoing, right? So when we start talking to families, how young is too young to start dripping in those nuggets of making sure that we're making our annual exams?
I don't know. I don't know if there's like a lower threshold limit, really. I mean, I have two kids, and even with my kids, we talk about going to the doctor every year, right? And it may not be starting with your young girls about mammograms, right? But keeping yourself healthy, having a good diet, getting some exercise, right? Making sure that you're seen by your doctor once a year to keep everything in line. And then as, women or girls age, what they need for their health changes, just like everything else changes too, right? And so as you get closer to really 25 is when I start thinking about evaluating someone's family history, personal history, and other things that go into starting to think about what their risk level is. And then by 40, you should probably be starting your mammograms.
And when you say risk factors, what does that look like? Because over the years, so many things have changed. You'll see a hashtag and a retweet. It may not be cigarettes as much as vaping. It may not be bottled water as much as plastic bottles. It's just so many things that are different variations of the same.
It's so overwhelming, I think, for people to keep all of those factors in mind. For cancer and for breast cancer specifically, we're thinking about cancers in your family. So breast cancers to begin with in the women in your family, but also things that can go with breast cancer or travel in families would be ovarian cancer, pancreatic cancer, some prostate cancers, or even some melanomas. Those can sometimes travel in families. If there's genes like a BRCA gene in your family, or now we have probably 8 or 9 different genes that we know of that can be associated with breast cancer. And then other things that you would think about, like your lifestyle. So, your weight or your BMI, how active you are, what your diet is like, how much alcohol you might be drinking. Those all kind of fit into it. And then when you get older, when you do start having mammograms, your breast density and whether you've had biopsies, or any other high risk lesions can factor in as well.
And it's a lot of those things that we can't just let linger. Once you have the annual exam, you have to ask those questions. And if there is a plan to follow afterwards. You mentioned BMI. We may not think of the daily activities and the things that we put in our systems day in and day out as a contributing factor as much as we should, because, when life is just being convenient and everything is a drive-through, how much does that increase our chances of saying that we may end up needing more of these treatment plans?
Oh, it's hard to say because it's very individualized. But, being overweight or being obese, especially past menopause, can increase your risk of getting a breast cancer or other cancers. It may not be the largest risk factor, but it's still something that you can control.
Yeah. What are some types of breast cancer? We'll hear it under one umbrella and just think that, breast cancer all is the same, but it's not. All of it is so different and unique, and you come out with different things. What does that look like on the baby scale for us?
Yeah. To a breast oncologist, really, there's several different types, and we can categorize them in different ways. Some people do it anatomically by where it starts in the breast. If it starts in the gland tissue, which would be the lobule, or in the duct tissue, which is kind of where the milk flows through. Some people categorize it based on stage or type, like how far it's spread. And some people categorize it by how it behaves biologically. So there are receptors that kind of tell us, is it more similar to normal? Does it behave more differently than normal breast tissue? And all of those things go into a treatment plan.
Okay. And once we start getting our exams, what are some of the questions that we should ask when we get there? Because, it's always a hustle and bustle of getting in, getting out, ball of nerves. We may think of things afterwards, but I like a game plan, especially if it's the first time or if it's some family history that we may have questions about. What are some of the things that we should ask for our own sense of knowledge?
I mean, I think the first is, what is your risk? I mean, it sounds a little crazy, but nowadays we have calculators that actually will tell us an estimate of what our risk is to get a breast cancer in your lifetime. And that can shape what you should be doing. So that's a good question to ask. And then what goes into that is all these things like risk factors or breast density, right? How often should you be screening? What type of screen you should get. Those are probably the
Are
most
we
important.
still pushing the self test, the mammograms, and before we even get there? Because I just don't really hear people talking about it often. Self
So
exams.
a few years ago now, the kind of medical societies looked at whether or not doing self breast exams changed how early people got diagnosed, or saved lives. And they found that it didn't necessarily, but it did increase women's anxiety because they were searching for something in their breast, and there might be lumpy, bumpy breast tissue that they can't tell the difference. So that, I suppose, recommendation somewhat went by the wayside and was replaced by self breast awareness for most people. And that's where I say that's like people who have a low risk of developing breast cancer. People that have a high risk of developing breast cancer, I still recommend monthly self breast exams, just to keep at least aware of what their normal is and
Uh,
whether there's something new going on.
what are some of the signs and symptoms for a breast cancer flag that we may see, not just in ourselves, or if we're hearing family members kind of mention it in conversation, that we might want to spark a conversation to say, hey, go get checked. This may be a factor of.
I mean, the symptoms of a breast cancer would be a painless lump or sometimes nipple discharge or changes so that you can see in the mirror that there's, nipple retraction or something like that. But a lot of women have no symptoms. And that's why the mammograms are so important, because they can find them before you have symptoms or before you start having any like clinical manifestations.
I know at Women's Hospital, you all really focus on a lot of wraparound services because when you walk in and you get a diagnosis that may not be what you expected or even something that was on your radar, that has a lot that weighs on you all at once. You have a lot of questions. You may need a support system or people who have already gone through it or going through it with you. What does that look like for a person that may need those wraparound services? What would your recommendation be while walking through that process?
I would say stay open-minded to all the services that are available. As women, sometimes I think we don't take a pause to think about what we actually need because we're trying to help everybody else. But especially someone who's going through a diagnosis like that, Women's has so many services. We have social work, we have, genetic counseling, we have survivorship, we have, almost everything you could think of. Um, and they don't always mean exactly what you think they mean. Social work can sometimes people think about, oh, well, I don't need financial help, or oh, I don't need, someone just to talk to. I have my friends for that. But they have so many other resources at their disposal, things that you wouldn't even think you could have wanted, like prosthetics or wigs or, reproductive and endocrinology, reproductive, help before you start chemotherapy. There's just so many things that they can offer you.
Right. And even to applaud the caregivers because they're going through a lot too, and being empathetic towards the whole process while educating themselves and assisting. It does take a village. And when we're expanding the platforms, I want you to think of this as an extension of your office because our listeners and our viewers, it's important not only that we have these conversations, but that we do the follow through. That we do the work, that we get tested, that we change those lifestyle habits that may be working against us versus working in our favor. If you had to choose that wish list for the remainder of 2025, as you see all of your patients come in and come out, I know there's no magic wand, but there's just this one thing that Dr. Patterson would like for all of her patients to say, this is what we'll do from here to the end of 2025 to ensure that we're walking into 2026 with a clear mind and with a clear purpose.
I would say don't delay. Whatever that means for whatever it is that you are trying to get yourself looked at for, whether that means your mammogram, whether that means you felt something but you weren't sure and so you put it off for a minute. Like, don't delay, don't procrastinate. Put yourself first for that one moment. to make sure that you get what you need so you can help take care of everyone else.
I absolutely love it. Don't delay. Now that's a word. We could pass the collection plate on that one alone.
I'll take it.
I appreciate you and your team for always taking time out of your schedule to join us in the hot seat and on the tan line and to give out this information. I know that we give out so many different resources and things that they can find at womans.org, even if they see the big pink vehicles going around giving out the mammograms, but make sure that they're setting those appointments. And if you ever need anything that we can provide on this side, you say the word. And next time, make the field trip to the radio station with me, okay?
Thank you. I very much will.
I know you have more work to do, so I'm gonna let you chase the sun or let the sun chase you. But either way, get after it. I love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it.